There's a fresh drive for Perth to expand its ferry services on the Swan River. Sustainability expert Ray Wills is here to talk us through this one today. Hello, Ray.
G'day.
Now, Brisbane and Sydney have them. Why not us?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we do have a slow ferry across to South Perth, but it is a slow ferry and the services are fairly irregular. It'd be great to have fast ferries like they do in Brisbane.
Is it a key to breaking Perth congestion? I mean, we are constantly seeing bottleneck on the Narrows and the Causeway.
Absolutely. I guess the key challenge to solving that problem is increasing diversity. Adding rail, we've got rail. Adding buses, we've got buses. Let's put the ferries in as well so that we can get people out of the city faster and at their convenience.
How would you see the service running? What's needed?
Certainly a service like this needs good investment. It needs to see a regular service, a frequent service. Any public transport service that is less than 10 minutes will attract passengers. Anything that's longer than 10 minutes will keep passengers away. You
say it needs good investment. How much do you envisage it'd cost to get a ferry service up and running? And what would be acceptable ticket prices, do you think?
Oh, look, I think ultimately the best thing you can do with public transport is to make ticketing either free or as low as possible. So that price needs to be kept low for utilisation. That's great for motorists because if more people get into public transport, fewer people are in cars and people can get across the freeway. What it will cost, it's no doubt going to be in the order of $500 million, something like that. That's only a guess. Ultimately, you've got to put stations in as well, you've got to put terminals, jetties in as well. You've got to have places for people to get in and off as comfortably as they can.
Does it need state government backing? What is stopping a private company from running this?
Oh, this is absolutely a state government requirement. The building of public infrastructure is necessary. The benefit of public infrastructure is to everybody, and if we see a ferry service working, we'll actually have greater options for getting in and out of the city.
The response from viewers is overwhelmingly positive. Jodie Pudney writes, yes, just like Brisbane does, their ferry service is excellent and we could learn a great deal from them on how they use their foreshore. Would it open up the whole foreshore as well? It
would, and of course, importantly, Brisbane has just announced that all of their ferry service will be going electric in time for the Games.
We have a question on that further on too.
Okay.
Michael McGrady suggests stops in Burswood, Vic Park, Applecross, Maylands and more.
Yeah, it shouldn't just be a linear ferry service, it should be a multiple nodal, so therefore there should be ferries going in all directions, and that needs to happen as frequently as you can make it. You can have express services between locations that then don't need to rely on road transport to get there. I know that the Premier said yesterday that we'd like to see other services, but that the ferry is too slow. If you buy a slow horse, you get a slow service.
I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that in a moment as well. Raymond Wayman Matthew Bright says he's sceptical that it'll get enough people using it to be viable.
It won't work if it's not frequent. If it's not frequent, then it'll be self-fulfilling. You won't get enough people using it.
What's frequent?
Frequent is ideally any public transport service should be less than 8 minutes per service.
Do we have the population for that?
Yes, we do, because the other thing we don't have to do is build very large ferries. We can actually build smaller ferries that don't take 500 people. Each ferry could take 100 people. Brisbane, again, is the model. They've got small ferries, they've got large ferries, and you put the large ferries on the express service and you put the small ones on the nodes. All
right, and talking about the speed of the service, Leonie and Eric Reid says it doesn't work for city commuters as speed limit on the Swan is too slow. Now, would it be too slow as a means of public transport? You have mentioned express services, but could it perhaps just be better suited to tourists?
Look, if we make it just suitable for tourists, then we won't have a ferry network that's usable by the rest of us. If you've got half an hour to sit and cross the river, then that'll be very pleasant, especially on a lovely day like we've got today. But if you want to actually use it as a means of moving people in and out of the city and that diversifies transport, you've got to actually do this. And a solution for speed would be looking at craft that don't actually create a big wake like hydrofoils and making use of those. They could be high-speed services. We would need modification to some of the regs in the river, but it'd have to be like a bus lane. The ferry would actually have right-of-way.
Tim Hadrell reckons it'll probably be shut down half the year like the trains are normally.
we're seeing a lot of expansion of the train network, which I think is a good thing. We can argue about whether it's being done exactly the right way or not, but nevertheless, expanding the rail service is fantastic. Improving bus services is equally important, and diversifying to ferries is sort of the extra cream on the top.
Max Bartolomeo writes, if there'll be enough car parking for commuters, it can be a very good idea.
Yeah, look, it should actually reduce the amount of car parking, because we're going to have ferries that could potentially leave from multiple suburban suburban points and move on from there.
And Istvan Imri Tok suggests all commercial boats should be electric motors like Singapore, and then you can have smaller boats that are cheaper to run and environmentally friendly.
Yeah, there's no doubt electrification will save on operating cost. It'll work for buses, it'll work for cars, and it'll work for ferries too. Reducing that cost means that you can actually afford to take smaller ferries. Two problems with operating something like a bus or a ferry is you've got to pilot it. The future will save us there, we'll get autonomy, but you've got to pilot it right now and work that way.
Many viewers have also said stop talking about it and make it happen. So sustainability expert Ray Wills, thank you for joining us and talking about it today. It's been good to have you with us.
Thank you.